Hello, what is happening, everybody? What's going on? Hello, 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 hello. Listen, I'm so excited. I'm so excited about today. I just want to kick off a series that we're doing. We're just going to be here like really short today, but I'm hoping that I can talk to a friend about all the fuss is about science of reading. So I'm waiting a little bit because I really want to share some things with you all, and I want to talk to a guest that's going to be coming today. She's not really going to be live with us, but she'll be in the comments. She'll be with us. And I want to get your thoughts on what you know to be true about implementing evidence-based reading, direct instruction around reading. I really want to know. So if you're watching this now, or you're even watching on the replay, we're doing some active research from educators who have taught reading, who teach students that may not be reading and you think they should. What's your opinion about how they should read? And especially if you're in Pennsylvania. So I want to go through a few things, and I have a few quotes, a few sayings that people have been saying about science of reading. There's some laws in place around how we teach reading and the science of reading. And I want to know in other states, because I haven't been to every state in the entire nation, but how are people taking to how we teach children how to read? And so over the rest of this, basically the rest of this spring, I really am investigating what people's practices are, what their beliefs about policy, the policies around teaching reading, from old policies, new policies, and how it's affecting people when they get older, people when they're trying to read, whenever they, are having great difficulty. I want to talk about privilege with learning how to read, and access and opportunity. So these are all the things. I just want to get to the nitty gritty. And I am inviting some people to come and have basically a fireside chat with us. I want to know what is all the fuss about reading? Why are we having great difficulty in our nation specifically with teaching people to read, having sustainable reading, like levels of reading, learning how to read. I want to know what people think about balanced reading, balanced literacy, and do people even understand teachers? Do teachers understand all of these different concepts that they have to go into the classroom every day and work with the children? Do they understand what's the expectation? Do they understand what the laws are saying, and what opportunities and privileges are there or not there? There's a lot of stuff we have to unpack with this, and I am just proud to be a part of groups that are investigating better ways to make sure that we're teaching our students how to read successfully, so that they can grow to thrive. Everything involves reading, right? But then even going deeper into not just reading and the reading teacher, and say, oh, that's the reading teacher's job. What's your thoughts about that? What are your thoughts about being in another subject and being the one trying to teach that other subject, but also trying to teach the children in there to read? And are you equipped to do that? And you might be frustrated. Like, let's get to the root and the nitty gritty of why we see numbers across the nation. And we'll dig into that during the series and everything. Numbers across the nation that our children are not being proficient by 4th grade. And then we see dropout rates later in high school, and people not feeling equipped to go to college, or colleges not feeling like the individuals are coming to them ready, and they're having great struggles. And so we start thinking about literacy, and does everybody understand what it means to be literate, and not just say, okay, like I can read some, kids can read some, but can they, like, Are they literate? So there's so many levels to break down. I want you all to stay tuned and stay tuned for voices that we'll be able to hear that will help bring awareness to this pandemic of lack of literacy across the nation in our students by fourth grade. There are many of them, based on the data, I believe it's like falling each year, even, and it's not just because of pandemic. The data is showing. The data is also showing that even before that, this was an issue, but even after the pandemic occurred, it even was worse, and it even revealed root causes to things. So I am interested in your thoughts. I am interested. Number one, what are you thinking? What are your thoughts about this? Have you thought about it? Do you know about it? Do you know about the term science? It's a brand new phenomenon of. It's really not brand new. Just to be honest with you, but it's now starting to become more aware. Like more educators are becoming aware of something called the science of reading, and how, like, literally it's connected to the brain, and how we do things is really important and systematic, right? I know when we think about dyslexia, I've interviewed a lot of people who dealt with saying, like, I didn't even know I was dyslexic when I was a child. I was like having problems reading. I wanted to do that. It wasn't that I didn't know how to read. I was reading in a different way. So the IDA is Dyslexia Association. We're going to have somebody to speak to that during the spring, and how we really need to pay close attention to how we teach children in and out of the classroom, in the home, how we are preparing our early childhood children, our early early literacy spaces, and making sure that we are setting the conditions and the tone that reading is fundamental, and it's systematic, and it is very, very important to have direct instruction with it. But then also, so these are things these have been things that are starting to come to light, and people are trying to understand. And then these are also things that some people have been doing for ages and years. So you'll hear interviews from people who from the 1980s were like, I was already doing science of reading before there was even science of reading. Okay, so you're going to hear a little bit of that. There are policies around that, especially if you're in PA, and I know across the states. In your state, number one, I need you to think about this. Are you aware of the great numbers across the nation of children who are not proficiently reading by fourth and third grade? You might have heard something called pipeline, like third grade. They look at third grade test scores to set up prisons. Like, I don't know if you guys heard any of these things. I want to bring it to your attention, because there are people hard at work trying to make sure that laws are passed to make sure that we don't have these problems and these pandemics anymore with literacy in America, and teaching reading, what that looks like, and how we can get to proficiency and beyond. And so I'll just share, those are things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk all about this during this series, but I want to know, are you aware? If you say yes, say no in the chat. What are the things you want to know more about? You may have children and you're listening to this. This is why, I always say my show's for educators, but you are an educator if you are impacting someone's life and they're looking to you to help them lead a life that allows them to thrive in life. So it's important for you too. And so listen, come on. Wednesdays, around this time, really 7:30 to 8. I just finished up a meeting where we were talking a lot about these things. And I'm just so excited to be a part of movements that are trying to make sure that our children are reading, that our children are able to get the resources, that the policies are in place, the practices and educators are um, in place for them, that let's say it like this, that the practices are strong, and that the people who train are ready to help the educators who are like, I don't know anything about this and I'm expected to do this. And I'm here because I'm hearing this all the time, day in, day out. People are like, what is that again? Oh, is that why I'm struggling to teach my sixth graders? And they're like, I don't want to learn. I want to, because some of them really don't even, they're not really even connected. And it could that be the root of behavior issues? That some of my students really are not literate. They're still learning to read and not reading to learn and think critically. And then we're penalizing. Is it possible that teachers are stressed out because they feel like I have not been equipped enough? These are all questions that we're posing so that we can get to the root of it and actually help and support all students everywhere. You might say, well, I go to a good school. My kids go to a good school, and but is that good school producing literate individuals for all of the students? Every child has a right to learn, and learn at high levels, and learn at their level, and have different modalities or different methods in teaching them how to read. If it's a one size fits all, it's a no-no. So these are all the things that I'm hearing. These are all the things that I'm hearing from the community of educators who are really passionate about making sure all children are literate. And so we have people that you will get to meet all throughout this spring that are going to teach you the ins and outs of what this really looks like. Yes, you've seen some other people on here before who, like, that's just what they do. And they talk about, I want to make sure all of my children are learning. But I want to talk to you about a shocking truth as well. So this shocking truth to me may not really be shocking, but it could be shocking to you. So I don't want to assume. So let me tell you, we are in a state of emergency. We are in a state of emergency because anytime, and you all know through history, people are denied, and it could be at this point, it's unknowingly. So that's why we're here to bring awareness. Denied the opportunity to be a strong, let's not even say reader, but to be literate in life. You already know, statistics have shown, pathways have been set to prepare for people who don't have that opportunity. So the pandemic is that we just do whatever we do and just go with it. And hey, that's just the way it is. It's not. I do have a guest today that will be coming with us next week. But if you want to chime in at any time, she is here, about these topics. I'm so passionate about it, and I'm going to share my story today. I'm not like asking any questions or, sorry. That's a sneak peek of my guest, who is a reading interventionist and just so well equipped to equip not only children, but also educators on how to be ready to impact all students, no matter who they are, no matter their background, no matter resources given. Every student should have the opportunity to have a strong reading instruction before they're past like first grade. They should have strong reading instruction that allows them to be able to progress in ways that allow them to be what? In ways that allow them to thrive. And that's not happening. So the pandemic is here, but of course, shocking, the lowest of the proficient student, like the lowest number of students that are not really achieving at high levels in our reading scores are our Black and brown, our Black students, our Latino, Hispanics. Like, this is what the data is saying across the nation, and especially in Pennsylvania, I can speak to. And it's not for a lack of resources. It's not for a lack of even, it's not even for a lack of people to do it. It's a lack of understanding and awareness that there are methods out there that can help us move these numbers, but really shift the way we do education, instruction as literacy educators, as reading educators, but as educators, period. So I'm saying all of these things, but I want you all to know that it is curable. This pandemic, I'm calling this a pandemic because it is. And shocking our Black and brown students, lowest of the totem pole, all these resources, all these curriculums, all these programs. What's going on? I need to know. Like, do you all know what's going on? This is our kickoff. This is our intro. Now, if my guest for next week, who's going to really break some things down to us about her experience and some things in another state where she's from Mississippi, and she will grace the stage with just sharing her story and all those ways in which educators in her state started to think about in Mississippi, right? Think about how we can really cure. It's not that everything's cured and perfect, but it really is. It takes intricate planning. It takes preparation, and it takes policy, and it takes funding to make sure that we are aligned across our state, that they had to be aligned across their state or across their schools, and people had to push, advocate, like, you need to be pushing. I need you all to push for the bills that we have already in PA that help us overcome some of these barriers. Okay. And so we'll explore all of that. We'll see, we'll let you even like take some surveys about what you want to learn more about. Because I just there's just too many people that don't know how we can move our students who are sitting in classrooms like this and are not getting direct instruction that makes sense in the science of reading, and in culturally responsive approaches to doing that. So if you want to say anything, you can, but I know we'll have you next week. So I'm really excited about this series that we're doing. And I did a similar series last year around the same time, because this is the time where we need to get out and we need to we need to advocate and press our legislators to ensure that we have laws in place, like we'll talk. I don't want to give you guys so much and you're like, oh my gosh, but I am this is the kickoff. This is me saying you've got to know that there is an answer to things that we just say are status quo, and most times it is in the policy work. It is in you going, and you can go. You are allowed to call your legislator and say, hey, in our space in PA, in work that I do in PA, there's been all this money that has been given to education, and you as a tax-paying citizen can say, hey, aren't there reading laws and laws in place to make sure that my children are getting what they need in the school system? I want to make sure that this is happening. Are there programs, are there resources that people are mandated, educators are mandated to make sure this is happening? You are allowed to get awareness and an understanding of something that is a problem area, and you are allowed to speak to it, and you are not alone in it, which is why we're doing this series. So we're going to slow walk you. I'm giving you the high height right now. We're going to slow rock this thing step by step and get some expert voices. And we will bring back some of our other expert voices from over the years that I've also used, because you all know that I'm a literacy coach, and I'm just excited about making sure that people know that there's hope, right? And I get disappointed when people feel like, well, that's just how it is. And so I just want you all to think about that. And I want you to think about your questions. Bring them next week. I want you to bring them for my guest, Rosemary Collins. She is our guest next week. She is a beast. She is highly sought after. She's a highly sought after educator, policy leader. Come on, y'all. And she has so many skills with breaking down how we make sure our children can read and sustain that reading, so they are reading they're not just learning to read in high school and college, and they're learning to read early, and then they're doing it systematically in a way where their brain is connecting to it. Science of reading, right? And they are doing it systematically so that it sticks, it stays. And finally, as my mentor who taught me how to read, none of my teachers were able to help me because I needed something different than what me as a little Black girl in my classroom, the only Black girl that was just like, she just can't learn. She's just not going to be able to do it because she's not getting it the way that we're teaching her through this modality. Now, some other kids were. So you might say, well, my kid is getting it through that. Okay, great. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. But if they're not, that's a problem. And there's a lot that are not. And write it right next to your kid. All children should have the opportunity. And so last year I was advocating on teacher preparation. I got on here, I interviewed some teachers around this time, right before I'm going to go to Capitol Day, which you can come. You can advocate. You can learn. There's going to be a lot of groups there that are advocating for education rights and shifting laws and adding laws that make sense now. You have a voice, but you've got to become aware of what's happening to help solve the problem. And it may not be solved quick, but at least you have the voice to do it, and you can get in community to do it as well. Okay. All right. So I wanted to share that with you. And when we think about teacher preparation, if you're a person on here and you're a teacher, you're an educator on here listening to me right now, and you're like, I'm in my teacher preparation program and I do not even know what you're talking about. And I'm about to go and teach into these schools, and I should have some awareness. You're right. You should. You should. So here's what you need to do. Because to me, if it's a pandemic, it's an emergency, you need to reach out. So I have put my email in the chat. There's a lot of there's some free resources that I can share with you if you want to know more information before my guest comes. But be ready to talk to her a little bit deeper about what these things are. I'm here to motivate you today, bring some awareness. I will share one or two things with you before we go. And I want to just basically, we're going to get on here for like 30 to 45 minutes. And not even that long, probably 30 minutes. We're going to get you aware, give you some resources, show you how you can raise your voice. And we actually want you to go and study it, look at it, and do it. And then if you are a teacher in training and you're like, wait, what? You have the right, you're paying to go to school. And even if you have scholarship, you have the right, you're in school, to say, hey, I'm going to be into the school system. I may not be a reading teacher, but I want to know what the science of reading is all about, just in case I have to be in a space where I'm teaching someone to read. Or if you're a parent, a homeschool parent, or just a parent, not just, or a parent period, and you're seeing your children are struggling, speak up. I need you all. I'm using this platform and all the platforms that I'm at to make sure that people speak out, to ensure that all of our children are able to succeed. That's all I ever do, right? Like, even though I'm the teacher coach, I speak for the teachers. Sometimes I say what they're scared to say, or not scared, or they're just tired of saying it, or it's just like I don't even have the energy. I am a voice. So if you have something that you feel burning in your spirit around their children are not getting, and it's like cultural responsiveness, that they're not getting um uh curriculum that is valuable and relevant, that is not okay. And if you pass that by and say that's just how it is, that's what they told me to do, that I'm going to tell you, you're a part of the problem. If you choose, and I'm not trying to come down on you, but I'm trying to come down on you because you guys know, when you were a child, when I was a child, and there was something that you felt your voice couldn't like say, you needed somebody to speak up for you. You needed somebody to say, hey, these teachers, they love me, they're sweet, but I'm not learning. That was my story. They love me. Little Robin, she's so sweet. She's so quiet. She's nice. No, I want you to say, oh, she's killing it in this. She just read a whole chapter book. She is breaking it down. She's over here on the debate team. Who will speak up for our babies? Oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional. I'm getting emotional. And so I do what I do. I'm on here all the time in different ways. And it's because our children deserve to have well-equipped, healthy people in front of them, leading the way. We need to have news stories that are not saying, oh, it was a mistake. Oh, this child went off, was throwing stuff everywhere, and because they're freaking out because they're trying to just communicate what's going on, but they don't really know how to. And and it's not all about behavior, but the behavior is an indicator of something. And so I get on here, I'm doing this segment, but overall, we've got to change the way that we educate, and we got to change the way that we treat our teachers and prepare our teachers. It's not okay to just keep checking off checklists. It's not okay to be scared to speak up because you might get fired or pushed. I know it's easier said than done, because we have a culture, and I'm just calling it out. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. I'm sorry. I'm mad I don't have my shirt on. Sorry, not sorry. But we've got to make sure that we are okay as individuals, period. Our children are watching us. They're learning. This is the way it is. So when you say that's just the way it is, just can't read. Maybe I just can't read. Maybe I'm not for school. I have interviewed hundreds of educators, not just on here. I mean, in life. Like, that's all I've been doing since I was young, is interviewing people who are educators, because that's all who have been around me. And the stories break my heart every day. But the most important part for me is that I've interviewed so many children, and they say, I don't think my teacher likes me. Why doesn't my teacher call on me? I feel embarrassed. That breaks my heart all the way in half, because I can't, no. Mm-mm. And a lot of times when I'm thinking about the children, and then I'm thinking about the educators, they were once in those spaces, so we do what we might have known to do. Now it's time to become aware of how you can do differently. School systems, it's time to do differently. Our world is very different. But then there are some things that we need to keep the same. Safe spaces. Many of you are creating safe spaces. Many of you are creating fun, engaging spaces. Many of you are creating rigorous spaces. Many of you are creating collaborative spaces. I'm talking about schools. I'm talking about educators in and out of the classroom. I'm talking about policymakers that are education based. I'm talking about anybody who deals with education. I'm talking about you. So we have a lot of the things happening in pockets, but it's in pockets, and sometimes it's not all together. Sometimes it's just all together fun, and children still aren't reading, especially underprivileged children, lack students without opportunity to be exposed, students who, I'm talking about all of that, right? And so I'm talking about a lot here. But what I want you to get today is that there is a science to educating, not just reading. There is a science to educating, period. And it does include all of those things. But at the forefront, it's building beyond a basic curriculum. It is building for a human being, which you were once in that space, and you might have had great experience or you might not have. But our children and you deserve to have the best experiences possible. And if we're not aware of things and we're ignorant, what we don't know does hurt someone. That's all I'll say. So thank you for listening to me today. There is a science to reading. I want you to go and I want you to do your homework. If you are passionate and if this touched you in any way, convicted you in any way, if there's something that you can pull from this, I want you to go and research the science of reading, but I want you to think about the broader spectrum of it, and which is being literate, the ability to read and write at high levels, so that you can, there's so many definitions out there. I want you to go and do your own research. But when we don't have those abilities, there's a lack of opportunities, there's a lack of a lot of things. And we know a lot of that is by design. So we're going to go through this series, and we really are going to start talking about science of reading, but then we're going to pull in some other arenas and some other areas that help to make sure the core, which is our babies, which are our children, holistically is at the forefront, so that we can bring the science in and they receive it, they're engaged, they can receive it, and then they can also bring it back out independently by themselves without just using AI. We can use AI, but your children will go and use AI and do their projects, but will that help them in life later if they don't actually critically understand what they're reading, what they're being asked to do, how they can actually do it and situate? There's a lot that goes into it, and I really want you all to stay tuned. Not only will we be here, there will be some other isolated webinars and links that you can just go and listen to other experts. I have lots of experts that I've researched throughout the nation and throughout the world of how to make sure our children are thriving and literate, right? Thriving in their reading, thriving in critical thinking. And there's lots of tools that you can use too, but we'll isolate just a few that we feel are the most important for you to start with, and then move from there and be able to have the science of actually just teaching and learning and engagement and loving being in the classroom and doing what you do seamlessly, and it takes off all of the status quo. So just imagine wanting to run into work because you're going to be with your children and you are well equipped to help them become well equipped, and something comes down the line, they're like, you need to do this. You're like, okay, I will do that. I am ready for that. Imagine that. It's possible. It may not be possible in every setting because not everybody's creating those atmospheres, but it's possible for you to be able to advocate for it and see change happen. Believe me, I've done it and I know it. And I refuse to go backwards to say, yeah, that's just how it is. Yeah, we're competing. No, we're all in this together. Let's get this done. Let's get it done right. Let's get it done now. Let's make sure there's cures. Those cures are not fabricated, that there's not poisonous, that we are purely and authentically helping Educators help students so the students can thrive and help others in life later. Bye. Thank you. See you next week. We will start at 7:30 and we will end at 8. But then if anybody wants to stay on for Q&A, you'll be able to do that as well. You want extra resources. We are ready and equipped. And all the people that are coming on this spring, you can reach out to any of them and they will gladly help you because they're just as passionate as I am. But I'm more passionate about getting more people to the table to make more awareness occur. And then more change happen quicker because our babies don't need to wait 10 years before people realize, oh, we could. No. If one of our children are failing, we are all failing and we are failing them. So we can together get it right because we're all learning, we're all growing, and we get to do that. We don't have to be penalized and we don't have to be shamed or treated a certain way. We just need to get it together and get it right. And let's do it together. Bye. Don't forget, put your questions in there.